You can hear my voice, my beautiful voice. Hopefully a beautiful voice. I think it's beautiful, but some people, if you want to disagree with that, fair enough. But we are here. We are live. We got another Style Esports Season 3 broadcast coming at y'all, folks. I am Baymax. I am casting tonight with one of our newer casters, going by the name of Timmy. Timmy, how are you doing?
Doing great, Baymax. Thank you for asking. Looking forward to the games tonight. Both these teams undefeated in the Freljord group, so we'll see one of these two undefeated teams topple tonight. So hopefully we get a best of three, some close games. That's what I'm hoping for.
Indeed, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. And we are looking at, like you said, two of the undefeated teams from the Freljord division. Now, the Freljord division, for those who are not fully aware of or familiar with our new formatting system going into Season 3 here, we have 5 different divisions, each ranked by average elo. Freljord is the 4th of the 5. So, depending on who ends up at the top of the Freljord division, basically the top teams are fighting to potentially be able to move up to the next highest division. So if you were to do good enough in Freljord, they would then move up to Piltover, or play a relegation match against the bottom team from Piltover, and then potentially move up, which would be pretty awesome, right? Everyone's trying to get to that top division, which is Shurima. That's the best of the best. So if you stick around, you get a handle on some of those Shurima, some of that Shurima group gameplay. That would be absolutely awesome, right? Those are the best of the best. That's what these teams are fighting for right here, right now. But coming into this game, in the Freljord Cup, we got 2 teams, like you said. Red Lotus on blue side. Anime Avengers gonna be on red side. Hopefully, it'll be a good game. Looking at some of the tendencies of these players, some of the champions they like to pick, I'm expecting definitely an interesting game. I don't know if you're aware, Timmy, but patch 10.11 did end up dropping, and a lot of changes hit the Rift.
Yeah, some good changes today. Just might shift a little bit of these teams' draft plans a little bit. Expecting maybe some different picks than we would have seen, just yesterday. So hopefully when we get into draft soon, we can see like maybe they pick something odd or flex, maybe some extra flex picks coming out. But hopefully we get into draft soon and we're able to see what they decide to do.
Yeah, a couple things to keep an eye on, right? For those who don't know, I'll give a little bit of a rundown on what happened in 10.11 because the patch did end up dropping today. 1, Volibear rework. If you're holding out for a Volibear pick, Volibear did get reworked, and his rework looks pretty darn interesting. But if you're holding out for a pick, you're probably going to be a little bit disappointed because he is disabled for now until Riot and until the players can sort of decide if Volibear is or isn't broken. Right, we sort of gotta, whenever the new champion released or a new rework released, it's always good to sort of get a handle on how powerful the champion is before going ahead and allowing that champion to be played in competitive. So Style Esports, for now, Volibear not going to get banned, not going to get picked. It's as if he doesn't exist. But there's plenty of other changes that hit the Rift as well. Primarily changes that are the most interesting are to AD carries and by extension supports. The bot lane as a whole, almost every AD carry got buffed, and about 4 of them got buffed pretty significantly. And those 4 to look out for are Lucian, Kai'Sa, Kalista, and Tristana. Those are the 4 that sort of got double buffed for the most part.
I think it was Vayne, not Kai'Sa. They ended
Vayne.
Up buffing. Yes, they ended up.
It was actually 5. I think it was. You're right. It was Vayne, but Vayne and Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa did definitely, yes. But you're right about Vayne.
Yeah, they ended up buffing the solo lane AD carries a little bit differently, but all AD carries pretty much got a 30 health buff across the board, and a little bit of a movement speed buff to some of the Zeal items. So hopefully it's going to let them survive a little better in the early game, which was one of the big problems. Was AD carries basically getting one shot by the fact that you have solo laners 3 levels ahead, and then basically never being able to scale into the late game. So Riot's hoping these changes maybe make AD carries scale a little better, get into their mid game and the late game when they're supposed to be really strong a little bit easier.
And speaking of AD carries, we do see a probable Lucian mid pick coming through for Red Lotus, picked up by Max. For those who are watching at home, this is a pro-drafted game, so the picks and bans coming through, this is not the order that they were necessarily picked or banned in, and in fact, it almost certainly isn't that exact order, but these are the picks. These are final, except for the back out which happened just now, which might have been because somebody picked the wrong champion. So stick with us. We'll be back into it pretty soon. I'm sure we'll get right back into the draft process here. But we'll talk a little bit more about 10.11 because I wanted to touch on the Zeal buffs because I think the Zeal buff was actually huge. Zeal got buffed, doesn't cost any more gold, but the base stats on it changed a little bit. Normally it gave a 5% movement speed buff. That was changed to 7%. So like you mentioned, that's big for a lot of AD carries, especially some solo lane AD carries. And also other champions, Yasuo, Tryndamere, Gangplank, even Garen, sort of anybody who likes building Zeal got a fairly significant buff. And so definitely expect to see some of those champions come through. Also, because almost every AD carry got a buff, at least a little bit of a survivability buff, if not anything else on top of that, we would be remiss to talk about AD carries without mentioning the bot lane as a whole and without mentioning the supports. Because in the past, supports like Leona and Nautilus have been really, really strong, and I think they will continue to be strong. But whenever AD carries are stronger, which they are because they have more HP and Zeal is better, and some AD carries got even more direct buffs, then enchanters like Lulu, like Nami, like Bard, like Janna, these champions all get an indirect buff as well because they thrive in environments where they protect the AD carry, and AD carries are stronger. So there's definitely a strong probability we'll see enchanters, Yuumi, Nami, Janna, Bard, things like this. They have all gotten a little bit of a buff in the current meta.
Yeah, and even maybe we'll see the new Bard skin at some point tonight too. That the astronaut Bard skin actually looks really cool, so maybe that'll come out at some point tonight. But also, speaking of enchanters, Janna did get nerfed a little bit. She loses a little bit of her W poke, which is going to be even more substantial if we see her picked up because of the extra health. And actually, all AD carries also got increased health growth throughout the game. So not only do they get the base 30 health growth, or the base 30 health at level 1, which is obviously kind of nice, but also just like scaling higher into the game, so you have a little bit more health. Maybe you can survive a few more of those, burst potential team fights a little better. As we get into the second ban phase here, just some AD carry bans on most sides, but these bans aren't that important considering this is pro drafted, but still just got to pick AD carry and support for both sides.
And Red Lotus, specifically, when looking at the bot lane, their AD carry tends to play a lot of Misfortune and Varus. So having neither of those champions on their team is a little bit surprising, especially since Misfortune was still open and is still pretty strong. Varus did get banned away by Anime Avengers, but Red Lotus, they're going with a little bit more unorthodox of a team comp here with an AD carry mid lane and a Lux Nautilus bot lane. Now, another change that happens in patch 10.11 is that Lux got a buff as well. Not a ridiculously substantial buff, at least not in my opinion. When her E explodes, previously there was a 0.25 seconds slow on the target after it detonated. Now, that slow duration has increased from 0.25 seconds to 1 second. So it's a little bit more obnoxious to get hit by that light, what's it called? Light prism, I think, something like that. It's a little bit more obnoxious to get hit by that Lux E than it otherwise would have been. I don't know if that's a good enough buff to warrant what's happening here. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a big fan of the Lux Nautilus bot lane. I think that is likely not gonna work out, but we'll see.
Yeah, wondering if she's gonna be running Aftershock here. It might be useful, especially into Zyra. If you hit your Q, that's a lot of defensive stats. Obviously, it was a lot better patches ago when they ended up nerfing it a little bit because the Lux support was too strong. But actually, the good thing about Lux in this situation would be the fact that Zyra plants usually block CC. So like Nautilus, if the Zyra plays it well, she can pretty much block all of the Nautilus engage. But with the Lux Q, it passes through one enemy and then hits the second enemy behind that if it ends up hitting one before the duration ends. So even if she hits one of the Zyra plants, it would still go through and hit potentially one of the champions. So maybe a little bit more reliable CC than Nautilus is bringing, and especially with the Nautilus ulti, they could probably maybe burst down people, and with the Lux ultimate on top of the Nautilus ult, really high burst potential there, because you're pretty much just locking someone down for a long duration.
Yeah, and when speaking of lockdown, looking at Red Lotus's team comp as a whole, they are looking to go in, right? They have an aggressive mid lane, they have Nautilus Lux bot lane, which is relatively passive early on, especially into an Ezreal Zyra, but once that depth charge is available, like you were talking about, there is a lot of potential there in that lane, and not only in the lane, but outside of the lane as well, fighting over objectives, over dragons and such, and then Jarvan Darius in the top half of the map. So across the board, Red Lotus, they're looking to sort of make stuff happen and force fights, but they definitely do not scale very well. Their window is going to be early on in this game, from like level 6 to level 11 or maybe level 13 or so. After that, Unstoppable MVP is going to start scaling ridiculously well. Cyndaquil, Ezreal, I can see that champion being so hard for Red Lotus to deal with later on into this game. So they're going to have to come out of the gate swinging on this one.
Yeah, something I also really like, a lot of teams for some reason pick Orianna and then don't pick anyone to really just engage, go in. They have a Shen, who's a great ball carrier for the Orianna. You know, he could just E-flash in, taunt flash in, or just even taunt in if you can get a good engage, and then you just hit a nice 3-man shockwave with Orianna. So thankfully they did pick a good team fight here with that, and that's really going to help instead of making it so they just got to run at them and Orianna basically just has to hope to hit a ball. If the Shen can taunt in with the Orianna ball on, they can potentially get a really big shockwave, and later in the game that's just going to do way too much damage for Red Lotus to handle. So if Red Lotus doesn't get ahead early, this game's going to snowball out of control for them pretty quickly.
Yeah, I definitely like the Anime Avengers team comp, but you know, if Red Lotus's win condition is to get ahead early on, they picked a pretty good team for it. Playing Orianna into Lucian is bad enough as is. When you combine that Lucian with a Jarvan and you're an immobile mage mid lane, that is terrifying. And speaking of being immobile, it's not only Unstoppable that has no way out of the Jarvan Cataclysm, it's Broken Stoner and Tarakito as well. None of these guys have any sort of reliable way to get out of the Cataclysm if they're stuck in it. So that is, you know, pretty scary if you're Anime Avengers, right? You want ways to kite back, you want ways to disengage from Red Lotus, and Hide on Shade has such solid engage, such solid initiation, that might be hard for Anime Avengers to end up dealing with.
Yeah, I'm looking for excuse me. I'm looking for Anime Avengers to try to kind of just take everything slow. You know, don't want it to rush into anything too quickly. You know, just let Orianna sit back, scale up. You know, you have the Trundle ult, you have the Shen ult, you have a lot of ways to be defensive, and something you can definitely do. Unstoppable should definitely try and pick up Ninja Tabbies as early as possible. So along with the phase rush to be able to get out of these engages a little bit quicker, Ninja Tabbies is a super valuable buy here as they have double 80k or double 80 mid and jungle. So Ninja Tabby basically gets you out of both of those situations. So if Jarvan ever ganks, you pretty much just run away, you know, with the extra moves. Hopefully not to get speed, but you know, mitigate a ton of that damage that they'll be bringing in.
All right, we are loading onto the Rift now, so things are about to get spicier. Some first impressions from these teams. I'm not seeing anything too crazy going on. One thing worth noting, Slinky King on the Darius top lane. We haven't talked that much about this pick yet. He's running Ghost, he's running Flash, 2 mobility summoner spells on a very aggressive champion early on. Darius is strong right now. He's up there in the tier list. Most tier lists I see put him at S tier or even S plus tier. So definitely worth keeping an eye out as a champion. A lot of other top laners that have been strong, like Set and Maokai, have been nerfed. Darius has not been touched for quite some time, and he is consistently sort of a counter to a lot of the champions that are pretty strong in the top lane. Even versus Shen, Darius actually has a pretty good matchup into Shen. Most of the time, Shen has a pretty good matchup into some of these sort of AD bruisers top lane, but Darius is sort of an exception, partially because of how sticky he is, how he can stay on to Shen in a long-term extended fight, and partially because so much of his damage comes from his Q and his abilities rather than actually his auto attacks. So definitely, I'm very curious to see how the top half of the map and especially top lane goes as we roll into this game here.
Yeah, I'm looking at Anime Avengers here. They want to rush some armor early in the top side because you can tell, you know, top, jungle, mid, all AD champions. So that's something you usually try to avoid in these sorts of games. So we'll see if it works out for them. Red Lotus, I mean. But just having that much AD, usually if they don't end up getting a lead super early, it's going to be really hard for them to eventually do damage before their bot lane is able to start, team fighting with them. And we said, they don't have a great team fight. They don't really scale that well into the game. So if they don't get ahead early and Anime Avengers is able to buy a lot of armor, it's really going to be difficult for them to try to push the lead that they might get.
Yeah, we'll see what happens though, because for now, the start of the game, definitely expect Red Lotus to have lane pressure, especially mid and top lane, and a little bit of pressure can go a long way, especially with the buffs that Lucian received. We talked about the Zeal buffs, we talked about the normal standard AD carry buffs, but Lucian specifically got a buff to his double tap passive, which makes it so that the crit damage from his double tap is now 100% instead of 75%. So he's going to be even more snowbally, but also a little bit better later on as well. That's a change that scales pretty well. So it'll put towards sort of the timing or the timer on Red Lotus a little bit further back, because Max is gonna keep more of his potency as this game goes on. Now into the top side jungle, Slinky and Hide on Shade looking to use that Darius pressure to get a little aggressive here. Flag and drag over the wall. Hide on Shade. Is this a battle you want to take? He has found himself straight in the clutches of Broken Stoner. Flash is traded over the wall. First blood to the troll. And now taunted up is Slinky, but he's looking for more. He doesn't care that he's level 2 and Broken and Sora level 3. He flashes after Broken Stoner, trying to find the 5th hemorrhage stack. Not going to quite get it, but Max has arrived. Dashing over the wall. Got a quick little double tap with a piercing light to pick up a kill for himself. Then now 5 stacks on hemorrhage. Swapping back to Slinky and Sora in this 1 versus 1. A double kill for Max. It's not a 1 versus 1 for long enough. Slinky drops so very low, but at the end of the day, 2 for 1 in favor of Red Lotus. The top laner gets out alive.
Yeah, wasn't looking too good at Red Lotus initially. The Jarvan EQ'd over the wall, and Darius is immobile, so Darius didn't really have any way to follow it up. Wasn't expecting that sort of trundle damage, I assume. But thankfully, Slinky able to hit his Qs at the end there, was able to just survive long enough, and Max getting that double kill on Lucian is really going to hurt this Orianna mid lane. She decided to stay and farm, barely got a farm lead at all from that. The wave was pushing into her, so she really wasn't able to roam up, but this Lucian with 2 kills, once he gets a back off, is really just going to start doing a lot of extra damage.
Top lane, Slinky going for a bait, trying to make Sora take the 1 versus 1 Hide on Shade. Now has arrived, but it looks like they're not going to get anything out of this. Meanwhile, mid lane, Max blue smited, slowed up by Broken Stoner. The pillar is good. Max apparently no dash available. A flash forward from Unstoppable means a shutdown. And now top lane, Slinky in trouble. He's taunted up by Sora. He is gonna fall as well. Disaster for Red Lotus, and it's not done yet. They're looking to trade one back. Bot lane flash forward into a staggering blow from Alpaca is going to force Sid to close splash and heal in kind, but now Broken Stoner straight out of mid lane is making his own appearance on the bot side of the map. Alpaca's got no flash and no way out. A chomp from Trundle gonna end his life.
Yes, so right there, it looks like Red Lotus decided to get a little ahead of themselves there. So, Jarvan going up top lane looked pretty good initially, but Sora Riven was able to just survive off the initial gank, and Darius ended up taking a lot of damage there and ended up falling after the Jarvan had left to go back into his jungle. And then Lucian there, just really good gank by the Trundle, able to hit a pillar. No flash on Lucian. He used it in that 3v2 earlier, so him falling, and he also gave a shutdown over the Orion and double buffs. This is going to be huge for her, being able to push out that wave and keep Lucian from cracking under her tower. And then, Trundle just going bot lane, getting another nice gank off there, and that's really going to help Anime Avengers here just scale into the game. This is exactly what Red Lotus didn't want to happen earlier.
Now, Dragon on the map being pressured. Anime Avengers, they pick up the kills, they pick up the early game lead, like you were saying, and now they get the Dragon under their belt. The first Dragon of the game, a Cloud Dragon, nonetheless, which is, one of the stronger early game Dragons, I would think, especially when you have a team with a Shen and an Orianna, right? These champions that thrive off of being able to use their ultimates as much as possible. So Anime Avengers, honestly, they are in about as good of a spot as they could hope for, I think, at this point. And the question in my mind is sort of, can Red Lotus claw their way back into the game right now? Because they still are waiting on some of their spikes, right? Hide on Shade, not level 6 yet, doesn't quite have that Cataclysm. Bot lane as well, no depth charge yet for Alpaca. These are cooldowns that once Red Lotus have them available, they are going to be enabled to get much more aggressive.
Yeah, you look at some of the CS discrepancies though. Thankfully, Darius is up still a lot of CS on Shen in the top lane. So hopefully he can just, keep pressuring the top like he has been. But, those double teleports on Anime Avenger side is really going to help them as well. Just be able to stave off some of these things in the bot lane. If Jarvan decides to go bot level 6, because we might see a little fighting here. No. But if he decides to go bot level 6, you have the Shen ultimate, you have the Orianna teleport. Really just helps remove a lot of the pressure that they can put on the map. And especially with falling behind early, almost 1,000 gold down this early. And this is really not what they wanted to happen here. So hopefully they're able to, pressure and also avoid some of those teleport things.
Alpaca looking for a fight in River, but the Subjugate is making Broken Stopper so tanky, and there's the fan United we're talking about. Alpaca down, unstoppable MVP, chunked so very low, gonna get picked up by a stray light binding from Elixia. Now Hide on Shade is next in Turakito's sights, gonna eventually go down. Psych, flag and drag over the wall, not gonna quite get him to safety. Terakito picking up her first kill of the game. All that happening, I think it was Max who also died, and I didn't even quite mention that. So that was what, a 3-for-1, I think, in favor of Anime Avengers. Another strong team fight.
Yeah, and like I just said, with the TP advantages, Shen just teleports down with his ulti, and then it's 4v3, and then or a 5v4, excuse me. So Darius is just sitting top lane. Ghost doesn't get him down top lane any quicker than, gets it down there a little quicker, but not as quick as a teleport. So just the numbers discrepancy there really, messed up Red Lotus. So now they're even down 2k gold, and this is exactly where they didn't want to be at this point. Darius going in on Shen in the top lane, but I don't think he's going to get very much from this. So just really bad for Red Lotus. They're just starting to bleed out a little bit.
Getting something back. A nice flash Noxian guillotine from Slinky to secure a kill onto Sora, a shutdown kill actually, so he's gonna be looking pretty big. And the question in my mind is, right, if there are all these tools on Anime Avengers to play on the boss side of the map, then why are you on the boss side of the map, right? Look to the top side. It's a little bit questionable from Alpaca to pick that fight bot lane. You got a strong Darius, play top side, then you don't gotta worry about Stand United because Sora is already there. And Herald is the objective on the map, so definitely would expect both teams to start shifting their focus to that. Top lane, Broken Stoner looking for the 1v1 on Slinky. I don't think he wins this, but he's proven me wrong. Subjugate healing, putting in a lot of work, and now Hide on Shade. He's here to mop it up if he can, but Broken Stoner almost going to get out of this one. A flash taunt from Sora sealing the deal on Broken's fate and on Hide on Shade's fate. Losing out in this 1v1 now mid lane. Alpaca making an appearance of his own to get Max a third kill of the game for himself. Lucian looking pretty strong.
Yeah, so just trading kills back and forth, back and forth. Red Lotus getting a little close, now only down 1k gold, which is, coming back slowly. But Darius actually had no mana there. That's the reason why Toronto decided to go in. Otherwise, I would have definitely not suggested doing that. But he was able to pick up the kill on him and then just barely survived thanks to the Shen flash taunt. So definitely a good thing by the Shen there, saving his Trundle's life. But unfortunately, good roam by Nautilus, able to pick off the Orianna. She did get that 2-man shockwave, but not quite enough. So that's just going to help give Lucian more pressure mid lane and hopefully, maybe pressure Rift Tail to get a couple dragons, because Red Lotus really needs to try to find a way to come back into this game, especially with how much early advantage they should have.
One potential way they could come back into this game is around Max, right? He did pick up another kill in that mid lane fight, and Lucian is a very strong early game champion. He is down a little bit of CS to unstoppable, but when you look at the actual gold disparity, he is definitely up a little bit. And with this dragon spawning in a few minutes or so, I think that maybe a dragon fight with the Cataclysm, with the depth charge, could be sort of the way back in for Red Lotus. But right now, Alpaca doesn't have his depth charge available yet, and mid lane priority is actually in favor of Unstoppable on this Orianna. So Vision in the area totally in favor of Anime Avengers, as it's actually Broken Stoner starting up the dragon here.
Sora then also has a TP available, but there's again no TP on his champion, so
Right on Shade forcing a fight with the Cataclysm, does manage to get Syndiquil's flash, but straight back in goes Terakito saying, my AD carry is out and I am in. Now on the backline goes Max, killing Cyndaquil through the Stand United. I did not expect that. That is a lot of damage, but Max damage is not going to get you out of this one. Unstoppable MVP is going to run him down with a flash of his own, but now Vines over the wall. Hide on Shade and Broken Stone are duking out in a 2 versus 2. Broken Stoner gonna win out of that one. It's just a little bit tankier on this Trundle with the Ninja Tabbies. Another disastrous fight for Red Lotus.
Yeah, they even got to be able to cancel the Shen teleport, the Shen ulti, with Lucian killing the Ezreal there, but didn't even matter. They still lose the 2-for-1 there, and they also lose Dragon. This is just turning from bad to worse for Red Lotus. And maybe Darius can get something back here, but getting a little difficult. And this Trundle's already 5-1. You know, a lot of gold on him. He should be able to solo the Rift Guild here if he wants, but he might just go top and kill this Darius here. He's pushing up way too far.
It might already be too late for Slinky with no flash, but he does have a Noxian Guillotine and a Phage, and that is all you need when a Trundle gets a little bit over aggressive and waits or engages without a subjugate. That is a kill going over to Slinky King.
Yeah, a little misplay by the Trundle there. Didn't have his ulti available, and Story was not able to follow it up too well there. So just ends up going down, loses that big shutdown, and that's really going to help Darius. Darius is definitely someone they're going to want to play through now. You know, Jarvan's going to want to try to focus top. They're already lost 2 dragons. That seems to be a little bit of a lost objective. If they can't get Darius down to the bot lane at some point, they might lane swap at some point. That's what I would do. And just try to get Darius to start pressuring other sides of the map, and because he is basically the biggest win condition they have now. Him and Lucian at the moment. The rest of the team is, you know, seems to be struggling a little bit. So if they can just start, you know, putting their pressure through Darius and Lucian, they might have a chance to advance for this game.
Yeah, I definitely think that Red Lotus is in a pretty poor spot. You know, we talked about the scaling options from Anime Avengers and how, you know, we'd expect Red Lotus to be ahead early. So seeing a 1k gold difference in favor of Anime. Wow, by the way, another kill going over. That was a good kill. Hixia doing some damage on this Lux. Gonna be picking up the Luden's fairly soon, so shouldn't count out the bot lane from Red Lotus just yet. But regardless, even with that kill going over, still a gold lead in favor of Anime Avengers. And that is a little bit scary to see when you're talking about a team that scales so well.
Yeah, Trundle just, you know, doing a little poke onto the Nala, but you also gotta remember, looks like another kill here.
Yeah, Stun's traded bot lane. Alhixia gonna pick up 1 kill, but Ignite is gonna trade it back. Shut down onto Terraquito.
Yeah, and if I'm Anime Avengers, I take a 1-for-1 trade any day. You know, even if you're even gold, you're ahead. If they're ahead like 500 gold, that's ahead in my book, considering how much better they feel.
Nice flag and drag. Broken Stoner's in trouble mid lane. Hide on Shade. They get the kill, and a nice double shockwave means that Max is in trouble too. Alpaca is running around the side of the wall with a depth charge. Drops it onto Unstoppable MVP, but the Stand United is there. Gets canceled by Slinky King, forcing out the flash from the Darius, and Cyndaquil on the backside of that fight gonna find a kill onto Max. That was another disastrous fight for Red Lotus. I just keep using the word disastrous, and maybe I shouldn't, but so many resources used by Red Lotus in another fight loss.
Yeah, not only did they lose it out there, it was a 2-for-1, but also Darius flashed just to cancel the Shen TP, and then Lucian ended up dying anyway, so kind of all for naught. Probably wasn't worth it, and a good buffer on the Ezreal E there. But yeah, like I was saying, you know, Ezreal needs to take time to scale up. He's just got his tier item right now, and usually, until he gets that upgraded tier item, gets the max stacks, and his Triforce or Frozen Fist, which it looks like he might be going here as he has the Mana Crystal Cloth Armor. But until he gets both those items, he really doesn't do a ton of damage. You know, he has some nice poke, but he's really vulnerable to dying because his cooldowns are so long before he gets that nice 20% CDR from the Sheen item. So definitely the fact that their Anime Avengers is doing so well early in the game with with an Ezreal who's basically just gonna scale up and be able to just, you know, belt out fuse into almost an entirely immobile team is pretty scary for Red Lotus.
Worth noting, a positive for Red Lotus is Broken Stoner showing topside again, not getting anything for it. This is, what, 3 or 4 times now that Slinky King has dragged Broken Stoner to the top side of the map with his pressure, basically for free, and not died or given anything major back for it. Although it didn't last though, because now Hide on Shade is making the same mistake as the 3rd dragon of the game is spawning, and Broken Stoner did find his way back to the boss side of the map. So Hide on Shade, you have got to just trade this Herald. It's too late to fight over this dragon, but it looks like they're gonna try to do it anyway. Alpaca in the pit, gonna get stunned up by the vines from Terraquito. Lux all gonna steal the dragon. Alhixia with a final spark over the wall, putting in so much work for Red Lotus, and Alpaca somehow managing to get out of that fight.
it looked like Broken Stoner smited early. I'm not really sure if he needed health or something like that, or what that was for, but he ended up smiting early, so it was basically just a free Lux ultimate. They had vision over the pit, so they knew exactly when to do it, and that's actually really good for Red Lotus. That's basically exactly what they needed. You know, giving them an extra Mountain Drake, and you know, giving them basically Soul Point then would be really disastrous for Red Lotus, because if Shannon, this Toronto, who's already really fed as it is, getting that extra huge shield on top of them is really going to would really make Red Lotus quite difficult. So they can at least, you know, essentially try to, you know, stop the snowball of Anime Avengers a little bit, and hopefully they'll be able to, you know, scale up a little bit and start pressuring the map before Anime Avengers become basically teamfight unstoppable.
I have a little bit of a criticism for Hide on Shade as well. You know, I think definitely in that situation, you got top lane pressure, you have control over the Herald, go to the Herald, trade that for Dragon, because they knew Broken Stoner was bot side. And now, speaking of bot side, a little bit of a skirmish happening as Hide on Shade fights over this Herald Broken Stoner. I'm not actually sure who got that smite off. It looks like it was Broken Stoner, and more than the smite, he's winning the 1 versus 1 as well. That Nimbus Cloak's movement speed giving him the edge he needs to run down Hide on Shade. Now bot lane Alhixia is so very low. Dredge line onto Cyndaquil is good, but it doesn't quite matter. Conqueror healing keeping him alive, and mid lane a shockwave onto Max. He's losing the 1v1. Broken Stoner picking up the kill with a smite of his own, turning it from a 1v1 into a 1v2, but make no mistake, Unstoppable won the brunt of that fight. Now bot lane turret falling. Anime Avengers are unstoppable here.
Yeah, so basically, Anime Avengers were basically hoping that no one got the Rift Herald, and if someone got the Rift Herald, it was them. You know, Hide on Shade deciding not to trade Rift for Dragon there, you know, Anime Avengers is totally fine with no Rift Herald going down, but you know, Broken Stoner able to go up there. He is way stronger than the Dragon at this point, just able to 1v1 him down, pick up the Rift Herald there, and get the second mid-tier tower. And that's really just going to help them pressure a little more for Dragon, a little more for Baron. You know, mid towers are super important. You're able to spread your vision out on both sides of the jungle in the enemy side. So they want to spread this vision out and just, you know, try to secure this next Mountain Drake, because they missed out in the last one. Even though it's not Soul Point, they could still get like a 25-minute Mountain Drake or something like that, Mountain Soul, excuse me. So that'd be huge for Anime Avengers, and just the fact that they're up 5 gold at this point is pretty daunting for Red Lotus. They're going to have to try to split push with Darius. I would say it's probably their best win condition at this point, just split push and have him pressure the other side of the map and just try to get towers that way.
And speaking of the dragons, you mentioned the Dragon Soul. The scary thing for Red Lotus is that Anime Avengers, Dragon Soul isn't their win condition. Their win condition is just sort of making it to 30 minutes. After that point, a Dragon Soul is nice, but they shouldn't even need it. So really, it should be Red Lotus that wants to be the one threatening Dragon Soul, that wants to be in the position that the Anime Avengers is currently in. And with the table sort of flipped on its head, the way that it is, it really is looking hard for Red Lotus to come back into this game. It's always possible with a fed Darius or with a Lux that can almost one-shot AD carry. Cyndaquil, Copper, and Light Binding. Alpaca Dredge lining it up as follow-up, picking up a shutdown kill for himself. A little bit of a shame it went into Alpaca, but still, these are the picks that Red Lotus need to be making.
Yeah, any kill is a good kill. It doesn't even matter if it's even a 1-for-1 at this point, although Darius looks like he's going to get caught out here.
Ooh, that was a nice flash about the taunt from Sora. Apprehend is going to slow the advance of Broken in Sora, but it's only going to slow the advance by a little bit as Cyndaquil walks up to secure a kill. Now a Dredge line onto Cyndaquil from Fog of War. The damage is there. Alhixia picking up another shutdown kill, ending Cyndaquil's life. A little bit more gold onto the AP carry for Red Lotus.
Yeah, but Unstoppable MVP is now getting into the point where she's able to push the Lucian in. Well, just 1v1 solo killing him in bot lane. And, you know, at the beginning of the game, Lucian has way more pressure than Orianna, able to basically push her out of lane. But Orianna got a couple kills, was able to just scale up slowly, and now she's just way stronger than Lucian. And this is a big problem for Red Lotus, as I don't really know who can really match Orianna in the side lane besides the Darius. And if Darius ends up going bot lane, Orianna can also, Shen can also probably fight the Lucian, as he does have that dodge ability, so it's going to make lane assignments kind of difficult for Red Lotus, so they're going to basically just need to hope that they can, you know, just try to get a couple picks, maybe pick off a sneaky Baron at some point, but that's basically their best way to come back into this game at this point.
Oh, teleport bot side from Max, as Hide on Shade forced the flagging drag away from Broken Stoner. Looks like both these teams not willing to give up this dragon without a fight. Sora Riven has recall with the Stand United available. Gonna have teleport up in a little bit as well. And neither team, as of right now, willing to commit to this dragon, but it's Anime Avengers that are ultimately going to say, we have the vision control, we have the pressure, we're going in. A nice dredge line onto Unstoppable, meet the AP carry, might be caught out, Standing United going to keep him alive. Cynical killing Max in the meantime, and now here comes Shen. Sora with a nice taunt onto Slick King. That's the main carry threat from Red Lotus, now dead as Dragon has fallen as well. Anime Avengers on a killing spree, chasing down what little remains of what Red Lotus once called a team. Hide on Shade trying to flag and drag his way to safety, is gonna manage to get out with his life, but that is all that he has left as Red Lotus lose 3 and they lose the dragon.
Gonna lose Baron here too. Anime Avengers just running straight over there. Definitely the right call. You know, able to win a team fight, and this is what happens when Red Lotus's team falls behind. They don't have a great team fight. They don't scale very well, and Anime Avengers is just so far ahead at this point. Basically, just saying, "We dare you to come fight this dragon," and Red Lotus decides, "Okay, we will," and ends up losing pretty badly. So at this point, it's going to be pretty difficult for them to come back into the game. Just got to maybe hope for a nice Baron stand and try to get some picks, but it's definitely going to be difficult.
I do want to give a lot of credit to Alexia, because I criticized the Lux pick a little bit. Oh, there we go. I criticized the Lux pick a little bit, but he's actually been doing pretty well on the pick as he finds another kill onto Unstoppable. And now Sora Riven a little bit too far forward. Anime Adventures getting a little bit too greedy. Noxie and Guillotine not quite in range, so Sora Riven is going to manage to get himself to safety after a nice little flash. But definitely a little bit of a win there for Red Lotus.
Yeah, so, you know, at least a little bit something back for Red Lotus here. You know, Anime Avengers, you know, getting a little caught out there. I think they're getting a little too, you know, in front of themselves, just thinking like, oh, we're all unkillable. So, they're even looking for a TP point, maybe, or just shopping. But, you know, they just need to take their time, play it slow. They know that they have the scaling, the work there. They have an easy path to victory. You know, they have the Mountain Soul point up next, and that's going to be up in about 3 minutes. So just try to push Baron and just try to take this game slow, because as long as they don't do anything stupid and, you know, pressure and get picked out like that, they definitely have a better, you know, a really good chance.
Yeah. At this point, Red Lotus they're praying. They're hoping for a Hail Mary. They're hoping for some sort of a crazy team fight, or maybe for Anime Avengers to lose internet connection, or, you know, something crazy needs to happen. Potentially like an Elder Dragon steal is one thing I can see getting Red Lotus back into the game, but that is a long ways away. Dragon Soul hasn't even yet been picked up, and look at the pressure coming in from Anime Avengers. Threatening top lane turret, threatening bot lane turret. Apprehension onto Sora Riven. The Shen is going to go down in the side lane, so a pick for Red Lotus. The mid lane, Broken Stoner looking for the 1v1, looking for the dive onto Hide on Shade, and it's no problem at all. Another kill traded back onto the jungler for Anime Avengers. And now Alhixia and Alpaca on the hunt. But meanwhile, top lane, Syndikill and Terrakido, they never left. They are still pressuring the side lane. Bot lane, Unstoppable MVP has been pushing unimpeded with no one there to answer his pressure. So 2 turrets falling, a 1-for-1 trade. Anime Avengers still slowly breaking apart the base of Red Lotus.
Even though Red Lotus got the kill there, they were unfortunately unable to capitalize on that at all. You know, Broken Stoner killing the Jarvan and basically making it so the bot lane of Red Lotus had to roam down, and then, you know, if you have 2 people mid and 1 person dead, well, then you can only have 1 person top, and he can't stop 2 people. So definitely a good play there by Trundle. You know, knowing his damage, knowing that he's way ahead of this Jarvan, just able to dive in and kill him. As it looks like Unstoppable might get caught out here if Darius knows that he's in the bush.
Unstoppable might get caught out. He's got 2 levels. Slinky is the one getting caught out here, as Unstoppable has now shown himself. The shockwave is going to land. Slinky's got nowhere to go and no HP left to play with. Another kill for Orianna. 5 in 3 now with almost 3 items completed. And Anime Avengers, they feigned backing off of the base of Red Lotus, but they aren't quite done yet. They got a little more gas in the tank. And with Dragon spawning in 60 seconds or less, that pick onto Slinky King is going to mean a lot of pressure gained for Anime Avengers as they move in to secure the bot side jungle of Red Lotus. They want more. They want everything. They want your Raptors. They want your red buff. They want your Krugs. They want your Vision. And they want your Dragon Soul.
Yeah, in Champ Select, if you told me, Baymax, that there was going to be a 10k goal lead at 26 minutes, I would have taken Red Lotus 100 times out of 100. But that's not how it happened. So, really big goal lead, and this is even exacerbated more by the fact that their scaling is just so much better. So, the 10k gold lead, along with the 3 dragons, just really taking really good stranglehold of this game. So, we'll see what they decide to come out with game 2, because this is almost all but over unless we have a colossal throw or maybe they get a couple picks, but can't even steal the dragon there. It was close. Good attempt.
I don't even know if you want to steal the dragon there if you're Red Lotus. I think you want the Elder Dragon win condition. I think that's what you want to steal. I feel like Anime Avengers don't even really gain that much from taking Dragon Soul here, which sounds strange because Dragon Soul is such a powerful thing. No matter what soul it is, it's like, how can a team not want to get Dragon Soul? It's like, well, because it opens up the Pandora's box of Elder Dragon. And Anime Avengers, like you keep saying, they scale so much better. They're already in a really strong spot. Dragon Soul makes them safer, but it's probably not going to do a whole lot as far as helping them close out the game. And in my opinion, it sort of gives Red Lotus like the one way back in, which I think is some sort of an Elder Dragon play. Because Elder Dragon has been historically sort of like the game-changing dragon. If set up properly by Anime Avengers, it shouldn't be a problem. Anime Avengers should still have this, but it could definitely go wrong. It's happened before. Although, will it even get to that point? Because Max might be caught out bot lane here. Does manage to get himself to safety with the Relentless Pursuit. The mid lane now, Broken Stoner and Cyndaquil again pressuring this mid lane wave as the mid lane inhibitor turret's gonna go down. Dredgeline onto Broken Stoner. He's so very tanky though. He's got the dead man's no stole play pickup. Cyndaquil gonna find a kill onto Max. Sora Riven has now arrived on the scene with a Stand United taunting forward. Shut down onto Slinky. He's gonna find Cyndaquil, but gets shut down himself shortly after. Alpaca forced to flash over the wall, running from Sora Riven. Unstoppable MVP, meanwhile, untouched on the backline, finding another kill onto Hide Shade. A 3-for-1 so far. Anime Avengers definitely in the lead. Mid lane inhibitor gonna go down. Flashes forward and away from Unstoppable and Broken, trying to pressure Alexia and Alpaca off these turrets, and it has succeeded. First Nexus turret dead, second Nexus turret dead. Low health bars on the side of Anime Avengers, but it doesn't matter because the Nexus has been destroyed. First word of the series has gone over to Anime Avengers.
Yeah, great game by Anime Avengers there. Just, being able to take the small lead that they had in the beginning, know that they outscale, and just keep pressuring. Don't give Red Lotus any chance to, get a little bit of a lead and start snowballing on their side and try to end the game before it's too early. But Anime Avengers, great game there. Good game plan, able to stop all the snowball and pick up a quick victory.
That was honestly just sort of really impressive from Anime Avengers. I feel like
Yep, I agree.
Like we talked about it, Red Lotus had a team that should have had pressure early, and I think, to the credit of Red Lotus, I don't think they just got outskilled everywhere. Like I don't think they just got outclassed on a player level. I think that Red Lotus didn't play as well to their win condition, right? They needed the Cataclysm and the depth charge to really come online and really threaten kills, and they needed to play around Slinky and Max early on. And I don't think that Red Lotus played to those win conditions as much as they should have. They took some silly fights early. They got a little bit greedy. It started off good, right? They were up 4-2 and had Max super fed on Lucian. But then it sort of felt like they just got sloppy and picked fights they shouldn't have and didn't play around those key cooldowns we were talking about. And Anime Avengers, they found some kills, they found some fight wins, they found some dragons, they found some turrets, and before you knew it, boom, there's a 6, 8, 10k gold lead in favor of Anime Avengers. And it's like, whoa, where did that come from? And it came from just sort of, I think, better macro play from Anime Avengers, maybe a better understanding of what their win condition was, and also just sort of good individual play. Good play from Unstoppable, good play from Cyndaquil and Terrakido and Broken Stoner and Sora Riven, knowing their limits on their champions pretty well. So I got all the credit in the world to give the Anime Avengers. That looked like a really good game from them.
Yeah, I think Broken Stoner played great on the Trundle. He was always in the right place, always seemed to know how much damage the champion was done, always basically knew that Jarvan's going to be top, trying to get Darius a little ahead, or Jarvan's going to be mid, trying to get Lucian ahead, and just able to really shut down all those ganks. And it really did put Red Lotus behind early, and just him getting that strong on Trundle early into the game really just made Jarvan's life very difficult, and Jarvan behind makes it really difficult for Red Lotus to engage. So I thought Broken Stoner played excellent that game. So hopefully Red Lotus try something different next game. Maybe try to get a little bit more scaling. Try to do something where they can actually be a little more relevant later in the game. So if they end up falling behind, it might not be so punishing to them.
All right, with that being said, we are going to go to a quick break as our players and our casters prepare to get ready for Game 2 here. Don't go anywhere, stick around. We will be back in just a few minutes with Game 2 of the Anime Avengers versus Red Lotus. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to game number 2 of Anime Avengers versus Red Lotus. I am Baymax. I am casting tonight with my best of friends, Mr. Timmy. How's it going, Mr. Timmy?
Still doing great, Baymax. Thank you very much for asking. Excited for game 2. Hopefully we see a little bit of a closer game, not so much of a stomp one way or the other. So hoping that Red Lotus here, maybe some of the mistakes they made in game 1, really just got outscaled super hard, weren't able to push the lead that they should have had early game. So I'm hoping to pick maybe a little more scaling here. Hopefully they pick, if they decide to pick an APC bot lane, pick something like the Syndra, the Victor, the Veigar, something that gives you a little more agency in the late game and not just so much one-off burst potential, because you saw if the Lux uses all her abilities and misses everything, and she's basically just useless for the next like 10-15 seconds as she has very long cooldowns. So maybe a little traditional, more traditional AP carry, or just pick an AP mid, pick a marksman bot. Marksman scales extremely well, and just try to let the game fall into their hands a little bit more than it did last game. It seemed like they were trying to push the pace a little too much, and it didn't end up working out in their favor. So maybe they can take a little bit of a step back and win that way.
To be fair to Elixia, I thought that the Lux actually ended up being maybe the best thing. The best thing about Red Lotus. It was going pretty well for him, all things considered. But definitely point taken. I don't think Lux bot is just that good in general, especially into a team like you were talking about, that scales so well and has an Ezreal that you can't really bully early on. So we do have a little bit of a side swap going on. Last game it was Anime Avengers red side, Red Lotus on blue side. This time, boom, Anime Avengers blue side, Red Lotus red side. We got some picks and bans coming through. This game was pro drafted like the last one. So again, these picks not necessarily picked in the same order as they actually were. Keep that in mind. Speaking of the picks coming through, we got a Zed on our hands, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep, Zed into Syndra. So Zed did kind of pick the Syndra. They're not picking Syndra into Zed. That'd be kind of foolish. But so hopefully we see Zed camp mid lane a little bit early into the game, and he is able to push the Zed's lead. Zed does very well into Syndra, as we see a dodge. I think Veigar was actually supposed to be picked bot lane for Anime Avengers, and they accidentally banned it. So we'll hope they get back in the draft quickly. But yeah, so if Zed gets an early lead on Syndra, she has a lot of trouble dealing with him, especially because if he uses the ultimate correctly to dash the E, Syndra basically has a no peel on top of that. So if Zed can get a lead, start roaming bot lane, get bot lane ahead, that's definitely a good way Anime Avengers can get ahead in this game.
Yeah, the thing for me about that matchup is that Zed can force Syndra to build Seeker's Arm Guard early, which means that she's not going to have that lost chapter nearly as early, and so is not going to have the sustain from the lost chapter that she would normally build. And then what you were just mentioning can happen, right? Even if Unstoppable doesn't get a lead, Max is not going to have as much wave clear, as much control over the lane as you would normally expect the Cinder to have. And so very likely that the Zed is going to end up in other lanes. Even if he doesn't get a lead mid lane, he's going to be bot lane, he's going to be top lane, he's going to be roaming with the jungler, making plays in hide-on Shade's jungle. To the credit of Red Lotus, or to the favor of Red Lotus, they do have a relatively safe and strong early game jungler, or really at all stages, right? Graves is just a strong jungler, period. He did get nerfed in patch 10.11. That was one of the changes that happened. The bonus AD scaling on Graves' Q went down from 100% to 80%, but he is still going to be plenty strong. He's still going to be a very safe pick. He's still going to be a pick that is hard to kill, but does a lot of damage, a nice, well-rounded, versatile pick. So definitely a fan of the Graves, especially when you can't guarantee that your lanes will have priority. He's a nice option to have available. He can power farm and do it with a lot of success.
Yeah, maybe get a little priority in the top lane, however, with the Aatrox and the Ornn. A lot of champs don't really do too well in the Aatrox. Aatrox just seems to always have pressure, always be able to push out the lane, and feels really well, but
don't let Axeman hear you say that. Don't let Axeman hear you say that. He hates Aatrox. He's like, Aatrox never works out in style esports. No, he hates as a champion. He thinks Aatrox is bad. He's like, nah. It doesn't work out in style esports. Don't pick Aatrox.
I'm more of a fan of Aatrox. Now, if you play him incorrectly, but I think there's a ton of outplay potential in Aatrox. You know, you lost the revive on the ulti, which definitely diminishes power. But I think if you know how to play Aatrox and you know how to play Aatrox well, he can just be a great, even 2v1 champion. You know, all the CC, all the healing on the ulti, just really makes that easy. And especially in Ornn, he can basically free hit. And even if Ornn builds Bramble Vest, something cool that Aatrox can do. Aatrox can basically never auto the Ornn. So if Ornn rushes Bramble Vest, right, you know, you get the grievous wounds on the passive of the Bramble Vest. Aatrox can basically just combo the Ornn down with his abilities and never actually auto the Ornn. So he never actually ends up proccing the Bramble Vest. So that's something that if you're really good at Aatrox, you can really just abuse the fact that you won't actually have Grievous Wounds, and you'll basically be able to win all the trades anyway, just because of the nature of Aatrox as a champion.
That doesn't make sense to me. I feel like normally it'd be worth it to auto attack anyway, just because you know, the heal is going to be halved, but you know, you're still getting half the healing.
Not usually an all in, but usually
regardless. Yeah. That makes sense. Regardless, champions like Aatrox or sort of higher damage bruiser type champions are often sort of the counters to Ornn, right? Because Ornn likes short trades. He likes trades versus tanks because he's got all that percent max health damage. But so the way you sort of deal with that is just by taking the fights to him. You can't really run another tank versus Ornn and expect to win. So what you generally do, you pick champions like Aatrox or like Kled or Camille, sort of, you know, bruisery AD duelist type champions, and those are what you take into Ornn to have a good matchup. I think Aatrox is pretty good into Ornn. We'll see how Slinky ends up doing in that matchup. I would definitely expect him to at least be able to have pressure early. That could end up working against him because, like we mentioned earlier, Unstoppable MVP is most likely going to have pressure mid, most likely going to be roaming around the map and looking for stuff. So if Slinky is a little overextended, he's got to be careful. He's got to make sure that his flanks are warded. He's not pushing too hard, and he's respecting where that Zed is, because Zed has such terrifying early game roams. And looking to the bot side for Red Lotus, not real likely, I would think, that Unstoppable is going to spend a ton of time bot lane, because Xayah Braum is a really safe lane, and Taric Viger does not have a lot of initiation early on. They don't have a lot of ways to facilitate Unstoppable early on. They really sort of need first item on Vigar, get that GLP slow before they can really force a fight.
Yeah, definitely going to be just scaling up bot lane, you know, just open to maybe get a little poke down, just try to get those Veigar stacks up, because once he gets to late game, he'll just do a ton of damage. But we also want to pay attention to the Taric ulti. The Taric ulti for Anime Avengers of these teamfights is going to be huge. Being able to get Set and Zed into the backline without taking too much damage and just being able to pop them very quickly is definitely going to be a big point of emphasis for Anime Avengers. So, like last game, when they got ahead and were able to win the teamfights, this Taric is going to be extremely important. Just being able to facilitate and basically mainly turn a teamfight that would potentially be a loss into a win. And I also want to point out something. So you mentioned Graves got nerfed. Syndra also ended up getting nerfed last patch. So she has a few more second cooldown on her E, which might not come into huge play, but the thing is, usually you max E last on Syndra. So it's now, I believe, 18 seconds up from 16. So she's not going to be hitting level 2 E until about level 14. So it's going to take her a little while, or level 13, excuse me. So it's going to take her a little while to lower that cooldown. So maybe they'll be able to abuse that a little bit in the early game. You know, 2 seconds don't sound like a lot, but for Zed that does a bunch of damage that might end up costing Syndra a little bit in the early lane phase.
Yeah, in my mind, the Syndra nerfs really just make it so that you gotta be more careful with Syndra, right? She's more punishing. She still has exactly as much damage as she had, exactly as much one-shot potential as she had. And by the way, you know, we're talking about this mid lane matchup like there's no hope for Max. There definitely is room for Max to win this matchup, especially pre-level 6. If he can get a lead, he can maybe hold on to it, maybe even look for a solo kill early on. So depending on the summoner spells he's taking, if he has Ignite or not. You know, if it was me, I'd probably take Barrier, because I'm a little bit of a wussy sometimes. But if you want to take Ignite in that lane, totally viable. Can look for a kill early on and sort of snowball for Max, and he could definitely look to do that. But you're right, Syndra, the nerf was a flat 2-second cooldown at all ranks of her E. So her E was increased by 2 seconds at all ranks, which means Yeah, she's definitely a little less safe than she was before, but she got all the same damage that she used to, so she's definitely still going to be good.
Yeah, I don't think it's not really gonna. Yeah, it's obviously not gonna hurt her damage, but maybe having to outplay a little bit harder, or those E misses will be a little more punishing if Zed's able to dodge with the ulti. So we'll see what she decides to do, but Aatrox into Ornn, pretty solid lane. So I'm curious what Hide on Shade is gonna try to do early in this game. So uh, on the Graves this time, not on the Jarvan, has a little bit less agency to make something happen in the early game. He can just try to farm out a little bit, but he's going to definitely need to be wary of Set Zed dual roams, as you have a lot of the time where if Zed gets pressure mid lane, which, he theoretically should if they both play correctly, him and Set can definitely just roam into Graves jungle, just try to spot out the Graves, even Taric just trying to roam in a little bit, and try to find the Graves and just start taking some of his camps, or pressuring him off, because Graves definitely someone that wants to be able to farm throughout the game. If he falls behind on CS and starts falling behind on kills, he definitely takes a lot longer to be able to scale up into the game. Graves, you really want to try to stay even in farm, because he definitely will outscale Set and be able to deal damage to Set later into the game. And he does have the phase rush, which is definitely good. Be able to cut away from Set and Zed, but Anime Avenger is definitely going to want to look to invade the jungle early, try to put this Graves a little behind, and then that'll definitely help be able to snowball their lead into the later parts of the game when Veigar starts really clicking.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the late game a little bit, because one reservation I have about Anime Avengers is normally you might see a team that has a Taric, a Veigar, and an Ornn, and say to yourself, oh my god, this team, like that's a scaling team, right? Those are scaling champions that scale quite well, and they are. But a potential problem that I'm seeing for Anime Avengers is they don't have a very strong DPS source in any state of the game. They're going to have a hard time dealing with the front line from Red Lotus. They are going to have a hard time killing Slinky King and Alpaca, and even Hide on Shade, who gets to that armor from those grit stacks that gets pretty tanky on Graves. Like, these are champions that I think Anime Avengers are going to have a hard time dealing with as time goes on in this game, and relying on burst damage like a Zed and a Veigar versus a Xayah is not that great either, because she's got the Featherstorm. She's got so much safety inherently in her kit to dodge out of a lot of that burst damage that it makes it so that if you're relying on burst damage to kill Elixia and she ends up living, what after, right? If you're Veigar and you drop the cage, you drop your Q, you drop your dark matter, and she presses Featherstorm, and it's like, okay, now what, right? She dodged all your stuff, you don't have anything for 5 seconds, and she can kill you now. Same thing with Zed, right? You go in on her, use your death mark, try to get everything popped, she uses the Featherstorm, like, okay, you have nothing after that Featherstorm runs out. Meanwhile, you're getting killed by Slinky, you're getting killed by Hide on Shade, or by Max. So generally in a team that scales well, you need a consistent DPS source late game, especially versus a team that has any sort of front line, and Anime Avengers don't really have that.
Yeah, late game definitely, the lack of damage might come back to bite them, but maybe a good way to alleviate that, if you have Zed go in on the Xayah potentially, or Zed go in, get her ulti out, and then try to burst her down after the ulti's done, that could be a good way to alleviate some of that. The issue is, Zhonya is definitely going to be a great purchase here. I hope to see at least 3 or 4 stopwatches on Red Lotus' side later points in the game, because stopwatch will really just stop almost all the burst damage they have. And the great thing about stopwatch to this sort of team comp is you're able to basically all the burst is mitigated from the stopwatch passive, and then when you come out of the stopwatch, they basically have no damage left, and you could just potentially burst them down or beat them down or kite away. So definitely want to look at Max is definitely be picking up a Zhonies early. At least a Secret's on guard, definitely into Zed. So getting those items onto Red Lotus' side will definitely help alleviate some of the worries later in these fights.
We're not quite there yet, though. We're still pretty early on in the game. Got some time before those late game team fights, and for now we are seeing a little bit of lane priority top lane going over in favor of Sora, and mid lane as well going back in favor of Max. So right now, probably not a lot going to happen early on. I think that favors Red Lotus. You know, I actually think I'm convinced Red Lotus scales significantly better in this game than Anime Avengers do. So a relatively slow early game is probably fine for them. You know, maybe expect to see. I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I am definitely a fan of Red Lotus' team comp. I don't think Zed is that good right now. I think Zed Jungle is not as good as some other picks. Although, you know, I could be proven wrong here. Broken Stoner looking for a face breaker against Tight on Shade, winning the 1v1 so hard. And getting the Scuttle Trap for himself. And now Unstoppable roaming over from mid has found Max after a Scatter the Weak has already been used. Increased cooldown, remember. Flash is traded as Ignite and Barrier both get dropped. Max almost gonna fall to that Ignite, but not quite gonna end up falling to that one. Meanwhile, top lane, First Blood going over to Slinky in the 1v1, forcing Sorrel Riven's flash as well.
Yeah, one got a little too aggressive there, ended up taking a few tower shots and dying, and Zed just meeting Graves in the jungle, ends up getting the Scuttle Crab for his side, but not able to quite win the 1v1. Great stun by Syndra at the end of that fight to push Zed off the W. I think if that connected, that 2 damage probably would have been able to take out Graves.
Oh, for sure. Oh, and I wanna give a Hide on Shade credit too for that. You see what happened to his Krugs when he's hiding in that bush? He read that Broken Stoner would look for him there, and he hid, and Broken Stoner ended up not getting the kill or taking the Krugs. So I think Hide on Shade actually played it all pretty well.
Yeah, definitely learning from a few of the mistakes last game. You know, the driving game was not the best, but you know, starting off pretty well here, and you can even see maybe that Syndra extra few seconds. You know, maybe at the end of that fight when Zed was, you know, going in on her right near her tower, she may have had her Scatter the Weak up last patch, but this patch it wasn't there, so she ended up needing to flash away. You know, Zed used both of his sums too, but I would say Zed using both his sums and Syndra using both her sums will definitely put an advantage to Zed, especially early in the game.
Yeah, and Unstoppable MVP is going to hit level 6 pretty soon, and Max is still not going to have that barrier available. So that is definitely a little bit of a scary place to be in. And you see double cloth armor picked up for Max off that last recall. He is well aware of the potential for his own death. Although, I don't know if he's aware of this roam from Turriquito as he gets engaged on. Turriquito running all the way to mid lane from bot side. This Taric putting in work, landing the Dazzle, getting a kill for Unstoppable. He didn't even need his ultimate.
Yeah, that's a great roam because now Unstoppable's sick. So now when Syndra comes back to lane, you know, her barrier might come back up in time. Don't have the exact timing on that, but if it's not up in time, and even if it is up, Unstoppable may be able to kill her through the barrier, and that's really just going to put a ton of pressure on not only Syndra, but also on Hide on Shade. Graves is definitely going to need to start looking mid a little more, because Zed's definitely just going to want to go in as maybe a gank up here in the top lane.
Here we go, yeah. Speaking of Zed and getting level 6 and wanting to go in, a little bit of an appearance top lane from Unstoppable MVP is Slinky King. We talked about it a little bit in Champs, like getting a little bit too aggressive on this Aatrox. He is winning the matchup, but ends up having to flash away to keep himself alive. A nice roam from the mid laner of Anime Avengers.
Yeah, so now Anime Avengers pushing their lead that we said they would probably have in the early game. You know, mid jungle does a little bit better for their side. So getting a plate on your Ornn really definitely helps. Just getting some of those armor items a little earlier, and Ornn's basically a race to level 13. Once he gets both his Ornn upgrades, about 3,300 gold worth of free stats in terms of gold efficiency, which is approximately 11 kills. So
that's
11
massive.
kills,
That's
11
so
kills
good.
is a lot of gold. So, you know, that can easily swing a team fight, easily swing some skirmishes. So, just the more gold Ornn gets earlier, the better.
Definitely. Getting Ornn, like you said, it's a race to level 14. You want those double upgraded items. Once you get that Abyssal Mask and the Sun, the Forge Fire Cape and the Abyssal, I forget what the Abyssal Mask is called, but once you get those two upgraded, it's just so many stats. But it's still level 6, pretty far from that point. We got a lot of time between now and then, and right now, the focus on the map is likely going to be on the bot side of the map, but not for Slinky and Sora. They are looking at each other, and Slinky is trying to get a solo kill. Gonna force the call of the Forge God. That is a big cooldown for Sora to not have. It means that he is not going to be very useful in any team fight for a long time. And Broken Stoner has been dragged to the top half of the map as well, with a potential winning fight in the bot side starting up Elixia and Alpaca maybe gonna hit the pressure that Red Lotus need to fight over this dragon. One kill going down onto Terrakido. Cynical doesn't the Primordial Burst, ends up popping it on Elixia, gonna find a trade kill back onto the AD carry from Red Lotus. Now Alpaca running for his life, gonna use the Winter's Bite to make Cyndaquil think twice about chasing into that Fog of War. Meanwhile, Hide on Shade and Max doing their darndest to kill this dragon just as fast as they can.
So I think the call from Red Lotus there was for Graves and Syndra not to roam down bot lane and help out from Xayah. I think they thought they would be able to also kill the Veigar, but not quite. The Veigar burst with the ulti was a little too much for Xayah, so that's a really good trade kill to get on the Veigar, even though they ended up losing the dragon. So we'll have to see now what Veigar's able to do with this a little bit of a lead. Xayah didn't quite hit 6 there, and you know, Veigar was able to just pop it with the ulti before that. So now once she hits 6 though, definitely gonna be able to mitigate a lot more of that burst. You know, able to jump over the Veigar stun, which is extremely helpful. There's not very many champs that can use mobility to get over that wall. That's really gonna hurt Veigar's pick potential, especially bot lane. You know, he'll be able to roam mid and maybe get some kills there, but at least on the Xayah, it'll be kind of difficult to burst it down now that he's hit 6.
Absolutely. Featherstorm for Elixia is one of the, probably the most important ultimate for Red Lotus this game, or at least later on it definitely will be. It is hard to overstate how nice that ability is into what Anime Avengers have. And Elixia getting flashed on by Broken Stoner is going to use a flash of her own and the Featherstorm to get out of that fight, showcasing how safe Xayah is, but Alpaca not quite as safe. And Elixia now caught out by Unstoppable MVP, who has roamed over from mid lane, using that mid lane pressure you were talking about. And Elixia, no more Featherstorm, no more flash. She is going to die. A 2-for-0 in favor of Anime Avengers. Top side of the map is Slinky King trying to trade one back if he can, but Orin is pretty good at running away, if nothing else.
Yeah, Broken Stoner knew that Syndra had back there. They saw Syndra, you know, leaving the mid lane, so he knew that she wasn't going to be there, and Braves was also up the top side, so it's definitely going to be a 2v3 or a 2v4 if once they get there. He might... Oh, he does get bursted down there.
That's a nice kill. That's a nice kill. Yeah, that's a shutdown kill.
So that's definitely been good for Max there. But as I was saying, that's another game top lane here.
Sora Riven using that Searing Charge to get himself to safety. Woldender has been popped. Looks like Hide on Shade and Slinky sort of feigning the dive there, but a flashback forward from Sora. He's not done yet. The Brittle proc doing so much damage, and now Broken Stoner has arrived on the map as well. Hide on Shade is going to eventually find the kill onto this Forge God, but he is more than likely to get run down here. Just kidding, he's going to get himself away, while on the boss side of the map, Red Lotus's bot lane, things are going from bad to worse. Elixia and Alpaca just caught out again. Another kill for Anime Avengers.
Something you do have to note is the fact that Xayah does have a really safe ultimate, but her ulti cooldown is very long. It's one of the longest AD carry ultimates in the game. So the fact that she lost that ultimate earlier and ended up dying anyway to
they're looking for the dive. Cosmic Radiance, Terrakido and Cyndaquil almost leaving Alpaca alive, just barely. Cyndaquil's gonna trade with his life. Not quite. Stopwatch popped, and Slinky King has teleported down, trying to do what he can to get a kill for Alpaca. Max picking up one back on the Terrakidos. Unstoppable might be in trouble. He uses the Death Mark onto Elixia as an attempt to get away, but he falls short. That's, what, 2 kills traded back for Red Lotus, so they're still in it. They're still in it.
But that entire time, you know, they defeated the bot lane, definitely into a 3v5 situation, which is good for them. You know, it stops a little bit of their bleeding, but now Orange just has plenty of free time to farm up on the top lane. And like I said, just a race to level 13. The more levels and gold that this Orange gets, the better for Anime Avengers. So they might also get to pick out the Syndra here.
I think Max is fine. He's still got his Scatter the Weak, but he misses it. I don't know how that missed, but it did. It doesn't matter though. Max still going to be able to get himself out of that one with a little bit of HP left to spare. Broken Stoner was down 2 levels, so I'd have been a little bit surprised if he managed to find that 1v1 kill. But that being said, don't always got to find the kill. A recall is good enough. Elixia and Alpaca, they're looking for a kill of their own on the boss side of the map. But I think they maybe overestimated their damage a little bit, because that is a Xayah with not much mana and not a whole lot of items. So Cyndaquil and Terrakido, they are just fine.
Yeah, really important. Zai ended up using the ulti there, so she's backing to reset here. Might have enough gold for her Essence Reaver, or at least upgraded boots. But she's definitely a lot more vulnerable now. Zai with ulti and Zai without ulti are basically two completely different champions, especially into someone with so much burst as Veigar has. So it'll be interesting to see if Seth decides to look bot lane a little bit more. Dragon is coming up here, and without Zai ulti, it's going to definitely make it a lot harder for Red Lotus to fight through this dragon.
Oh yeah, and honestly, I don't think they should be fighting for it at all, but it looks like they are. Alpaca stuck in the event horizon, gonna go ahead and fall to the haymaker damage, the true damage from Broken Stoner. Meanwhile, Max forced to flash over that wall and run away from Terraquito and Unstoppable, while Sora Riven has walked all the way down and made the journey from top lane just to secure this dragon for Anime Avengers. They may have lost the first dragon of the game, but they do not plan on losing a second. And heck, they're looking for kills. Sora Riven popping the call of the Forge God, trying to find a knockup. It's not quite going to land. Searing Charge forward is going to find nobody, but the dragon did go down, and Anime Avengers did win the fight.
Yeah, something that I hadn't mentioned earlier, something that Anime Avengers has a ton of that's really going to be useful for these Baron and these Dragon fights is a ton of zone control. Veigar with, as we might see a little gank here.
That might be some trouble. Wow, sorry, I'm tongue-tied. The Cosmic Radiance popping out from Terraquito. Tight on Shade melts before he even knows what hit him. Flash out from Alpaca. Cyndaquil is low on mana, but he's got just enough for another kill onto Alpaca. Now Broken Stoner trying to buy his team some time, dueling Slinky in the side lane. Not quite coming out on top of that one, but it doesn't really matter. He bought enough time to keep Slinky from disturbing the rest of the battle. Red Lotus lose another fight.
Yeah, opening up Anime Avengers to a 3.5k gold lead already at this point in the game. That's definitely going to mitigate them a lot more time later into the game. I'd like to see a solo kill here. Oh, great outplay by
just fine, Max. Hitting Unstoppable. Yeah, tremendously outplayed, right? The unleashed power. You just get outplayed, right? Honestly, that is actually how you have to play the matchup. Normally, when you're talking about Zed versus Syndra, Zed doesn't have that much kill pressure on Syndra, and Syndra doesn't have that much kill pressure on Zed, because you can't use the unleashed power aggressively, because then the Zed can just use his Death Mark to dodge it. But you can't use a Death Mark on Syndra aggressively, because then she can use her Unstoppable power and kill you. So it's just sort of like back and forth. You're sort of waiting for the other one to use their ability first, and it's generally just sort of a stalemate. But it's a stalemate that Zed usually comes out on top of, because he has the more efficient wave clear, so he can just shove and roam. Meanwhile, Max, Syndra, stuck on their turret with mana, not quite as free to shove and roam. But came out on top of that one, because Unstoppable got a little bit too aggressive. Ooh,
that's definitely gonna. Oh, sorry.
Featherstorm. Yeah, you're good. I didn't know what was gonna happen. Featherstorm got forced out from Elixir. That's worth mentioning, right? Featherstorm ended up getting used. I think they dodged out of an event horizon.
Yeah, it was a nice dodge. Probably would have gotten bursted down by the Veigar. He did have his ult up. And, yeah, so what I was saying earlier, before we ended up seeing like 4 fights in a row, Anime Avengers have a great amount of zone control. Veigar with Twin Shadows and with Hextech GLP, which for some reason he's not going this game, which doesn't make a lot of sense because he does have the Glacial Augment.
Well, yeah, he has Glacial Augment. Why did he build Ludens Echo? Oh no.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was there, but if you did have the Hextech GOP with the Twin Shadows, a ton of zone control, you're basically you guarantee your stun hit with the slow, and then you basically are able to push everyone off of the objectives, and especially with the Ornn Horn too, just the Ornn ulti and the massive slow from Veigar and the stun makes it so hard for you to try to walk up and face check objectives. So for some reason, Simple did not decide to go the Hextech GOP, and that might actually bite them later into the game. We'll have to see, but I think that's a very bad misplay by Simple here.
I would definitely agree, and Alpaca thinks so too, because he's looking to engage on him, but Cosmic Radiance is going to buy a lot of time. Elixir, remember, can't walk forward, still no Featherstorm, gets caught up by that event horizon. So, Terraquito and Cyndaquil basically just allowed to walk away, but Cosmic Radiance was used.
Yeah, basically trading. Oh, get caught out here.
On the event horizon again, Primordial Burst doing a ton of damage, not quite enough. Now Terraquito gonna finish the job. Another nice kill going over to Cyndaquil. Baleful strikes just landing. Meanwhile, mid lane turret has fallen. And I think forcing the flash from Slinky as well. Broken Stoner are unstoppable, putting in so much work. Turrets falling across the map.
Yeah, Anime Avengers up to a 5k gold lead now. Definitely pulling ahead in this one. And you see Vagar has he's 4 on 5, has a 450 gold shutdown, which is why I'm really questioning not building the GLP Twin Shadows here.
Look at this teleport. Oh, it's too late. He's out.
Too late. That's really gonna hurt Red Lotus there too. Now he has to slowly walk back mid or top lane. Just, you know, look at this depressed Aatrox just slowly walking back up.
I think he's going to hang out. I think he's going to hang out. Dragon spawning in 15 seconds. This does give Red Lotus the pressure they need to fight over this dragon, but it would have been so much nicer if they could have interrupted some of those recalls, right? That was the goal, was to make sure Cyndaquil and Turkito couldn't recall before a dragon spawned. But for now, Red Lotus still really have the inside track here on the first Infernal Dragon of the game. It is going to be an Infernal Soul. We'll see if Anime Avengers want to fight over it. They're posturing like, yes, they do. Cosmic Radiance still unavailable. That's a big cooldown to fight with and not have. So at the end of the day, Red Lotus, they are going to be able to walk their way into that dragon pit.
Yeah, they had pressure. They had the push on mid. They had push on top too. And this is what I'm talking about with this great zone control here. You're able to push them away.
Now it's all the Forge God used to collapse on Red Lotus. I can't even tell who's winning the fight. Elixia is still untouched. Cyndaquil is down. That's a big shutdown kill. It means that the feathers can be rended back. Elixia finding another kill. Shut down to the Slinky as well. Diving the backline from Anime Avengers. Ornn, the last one standing. Sora Riven, you are going to eventually go down to this demon. But top side of the map, Unstoppable MVP not in the fight. Left to split push is threatening to take the inhibitor.
Yeah, so that's a huge spot where GLP Twin Shadows would have been much nicer if they had the slows there. You know, they had the nice zone control with the big RE basically taking up that whole section, and also the Ornn ulti, but not having the slows there really just makes it a lot easier for them to dodge out, Red Lotus to dodge out of a lot of Anime Avengers abilities, and also would have really helped kite them back there. Zed was not going to be in that fight. There was no way. It was a 4v5 all the way, and Anime Avengers just kind of didn't respect Red Lotus's damage there, and didn't realize that they'd just be able to engage through all the zoning neutral anyway. The Ornn only hit one person. It wasn't the best ulti, so would have been a little bit better. I think if Anime Avengers ends up losing this game, you really have to question the build path of the Vagar, of how ahead he was, and not having the Glacial Augment slow. That Keystone's basically useless on him. He's not really autoing anyone.
Yeah, definitely needs. Yeah, he's not building. He's still not building it. He's building into a death cap. He's got 2 needlessly large rods. Do you really need more damage at this point, or do you need utility in this build? I guess Cyndaquil says I need damage, baby, which, you know, respectable, but is it really true? Because like you were saying, that Glacial Augment slow is so crucial. Can be so crucial for kiting and catching out some of the key carries here for Red Lotus. Catching Elixia, catching Max. These are the guys that need to die if you're going to win the fight, especially Elixia. So, and you hit the nail on the head too in talking about the zone control of the last fight and who was picked in that fight. That was a 4 versus 5. Anime Avengers knew it was a 4 versus 5 and they picked it. They started that fight. Now they're starting another one. Mid lane, Event Horizon onto Alpaca. Unbreakable doing a lot to slow the roll of Anime Avengers, but not quite enough. A nice showstopper onto Elixia as the Featherstorm ended means that 2 members of Red Lotus are dead. Arguably the 2 most important. Cosmic Radiance gonna be used by Terrakito to keep Broken Stoner alive. Now Slinky trying to trade something back onto Cyndaquil. Not gonna quite find it. Locket just barely doing its job. Eventually he's gonna fall, but not before Cyndaquil is traded away in return. 2 for 3 at the end of the day. Broken Stoner maybe looking to re-engage, while Unstoppable is still in the side lane, taking turret after turret after turret.
So it seems like Anime Avengers here are just trying to opting into the 4v5, and they just keep going in it. And that time it worked out really well. They're able to engage before all 5 Red Lotus members were there, able to pick off a few members, and Elixia dying early in that fight really just takes away from the DPS that Red Lotus has. And the fact that Zed is basically just refusing team fight, and you know, that's probably a good call in that situation where he was able to get another 2 towers. You know, they have top in hit broken, they have bot in hit exposed. That's really going to help pressure them give them pressure later in the game, especially give them a lot of this Baron vision here. The fact that they have top inhib means that top lane is basically push almost the entire time. So you can basically freely enter the top jungle because Red Lotus really doesn't have a tower to fall back to. They do have the mid inhib tower, but realistically they don't have a lot of ways to kite back and safely fight, and especially with the zone control that Anime Avengers has. If you have Red Lotus coming through their own jungle and they don't have a lot of vision and they have to walk in and face check the Baron, that's really not how Red Lotus wants to fight these team fights. They want to be able to control the team fights and not be forced into an uncomfortable position, and that's exactly what Anime Avengers can do here if they get the right vision control and are able to force Red Lotus to face check the Baron.
All I can say at this point is, Cyndaquil, please turn that amplifying tome into a GLP. I think that is like the last thing that Anime Avengers really need to secure a win here. I'm 100% in agreement with you about Unstoppable being in the side lane fighting these turrets. That is undoubtedly the right place. So much pressure has been gained on the map for Anime Avengers off of this Zed being in the side lanes. And you see that manifesting itself right now. Dragon is spawning, an important dragon, third one of the game, and it's all Anime Avengers all day long. Now in the side lane, it's a 1-for-1, and it's actually Red Lotus coming out on top as Slinky takes the 1v1 gladly versus Unstoppable and finds a kill for himself. Now a 4 versus 5 Red Lotus looking for the re-engage. It's a flash glacial pressure from Alpaca to re-engage the fight. Broken Stoner though, hide on Shade using that showstopper, taking him right to the side of the backline, and Elixia is dead. The Featherstorm not gonna mitigate nearly enough damage. Anime Avengers ready to pounce on the carry of Red Lotus at the back end of that fight. It's all Anime Avengers all day long. If Elixia is dead, there's no follow-up. There's nothing left for Red Lotus, and now Max trying to get something done in the back end of this fight. Not gonna do it. Not gonna have what he needs to get back into this one. Dragon is gonna go down to Anime Avengers, a very important dragon, and the fight has gone down to Anime Avengers as well.
Yeah, you can see right there, Red Lotus was able to get a nice pick. Max with a beautiful stun on the Zed there. He was not able to get his ult recast off to get back to the original ult point to get away from the Aatrox, and then was just bursted down. So really big stun there. But then you see that when Anime Avengers decides to kite away, the fact that they just have so much zone control, and when they control the fight and are able to just keep them away and say, this is when we want to fight, use the Taric ulti, the zone from the Veigar, the zoning from the Thorn ult, they just are so hard to bring down. And you just saw there, a 4v5, Zed doesn't do a lot in team fights, so the fact that he wasn't there didn't really matter too much, considering he already did a lot of burst damage, so just able to pick up the 4-for-0 there in the later fight, which is just huge for them. Although they don't get the Baron, but they still do have a ton of control top lane.
Yeah, there's that lack of consistent DPS we were talking about, sort of coming back to bite Anime Avengers. If that was Red Lotus that had wiped that fight and had Elixia still alive, 100% they can take that Baron, they get that Baron, they expand their gold lead or catch back up. But unfortunately for Anime Avengers, they don't quite have the damage to do that. And so this is sort of an awkward time for Anime Avengers, because I feel like, they're against a team that outscales. Especially if Elixia can stay safe and use that Featherstorm appropriately, it's going to be really, really hard to deal with what Red Lotus are going to bring to the table late game. But Anime Avengers only have 2 dragons at this point, and they are not realistically going to be able to take Baron unless they just clean sweep a fight at Baron Pit. Preferably with Red Lotus already leashing them the Baron, right? That's sort of what they need to get the Baron to end the game. They can't end the game without Baron, or maybe without Dragon Soul, but they are seemingly pretty far from either objective. Broken Stunner, though, he's disagreeing with me. He is going to go ahead and start this Baron up. And you know what? Elixia and Slinky and Alpaca are all bot side. I think they can do it. Sora might be the sacrificial lamb here. Going to invest the Call of the Forge God to try to buy as much time as he can for his team. Actually forces the Featherstorm from Elixia, and meanwhile, the entire rest of Anime Avengers are slowly but surely tearing down this Baron. It's taking a while, but you know what? 3 members of Red Lotus on the bot side of the map, it doesn't matter, Timmy. They made the macro call, they made the smart macro call, and they did get the Baron with it. Now they're looking for a fight. Max forced to Zanya's, not gonna get away from that last shuriken though. Unstoppable picking up a kill for himself. Broken Stoner going onto the back line with the showstopper. I don't know if this is the showstopper he wants, though. The rest of Red Lotus has arrived. And you have to remember that they are down, that Anime Avengers are down a member because Sora did die in the side lane. So a little bit of over-aggression from Broken Stoner and maybe from Unstoppable as well. But at the end of the day, Anime Avengers still definitely coming out on top there.
So I think near the end of that fight, either Zed or Set was going to have to die. Zed would have been dead if Set didn't go in. So I think that's actually the right call from Anime Avengers. You know, Zed is just going to split pushing this whole game. And if you can keep Baron on Zed rather than your Set that's your jungler, I think that's definitely better for Anime Avengers in the long run. So now Zed can just push out bot lane. You see him going bot lane right now, just going to push against the Aatrox. And pretty much no one on Red Lotus can really 1v1 Zed at this point, as long as he plays it well. That's really going to help put a lot more pressure. The fact that he is Baron and is able to push out this wave a lot quicker than Set would by himself, because if Set gets 1v1, he has a good chance of being able to be killed in a 1v1. But Zed is a lot harder to do, as we might actually see a little bit of fighting here.
And Call the Forge God used again. Elixir showing on the other side of the map. Anime Avengers know they are free to engage on this fight. The key carrying from Red Lotus is not present. But Alpaca is pretty tanky on this Braum. Unbreakable means he is going to get out alive. And he got the biggest engage ultimate out of Anime Avengers. No Call of Forge God available. Volume Inhibitor is open. Cyndaquil using the heal. Wow, the Event Horizon making Hide on Shake get caught out and die just like that. Cosmic Radiance gonna keep Anime Avengers alive as they keep this Demolition Ball rolling into Red Lotus' space. Elixir still untouched in the backline. Uses the Featherstorm aggressively because Cyndaquil is dead. That is the key one-shot threat from Anime Avengers dead, but Sora Riven says, I laugh at that. I am an Ord. I have just as much one-shot threat as a Vygar does. I will force your flash and heal, Elixir. Meanwhile, on the side of the fight, Slinky King and Broken Stoner duking it out in the 1v1. Who wins? A Set versus Aatrox. I tell you right here, right now, it is Set. At least it is Broken Stoner's Set. So, regardless, that was a crazy fight, but holy crap, Anime Avengers, do they ever come out on top?
Yeah, great job. Set knowing that his team was still going to be okay, able to just sit in the mid lane and just get that tower and hit down, able to burst down the Aatrox when he showed up with about half health. So see a little bit more fighting here.
Yeah, Elixir now on a killing spree. I thought Anime Avengers might look try to end the game there, but they didn't feel confident. They go for the good old-fashioned triple inhib instead, but Sora Riven ends up paying with his life as Elixir had time to reset, run back, get more HP, get more mana, and head back to the fight. And that pick might actually give Red Lotus the pressure they need to contest this dragon. For now, Anime Avengers still have the inside track on this objective, but it looks like Red Lotus are not going to give it up without a fight here.
Yeah, with the Vygar cage, definitely hard for them to walk in.
Oh, flash forward into an Event Horizon from Cyndaquil. Dark Matter is going to end Max's life. He doesn't even have time to barrier. A double kill for Alpaca as well. Anime Avengers, they're just looking to run it down and end. Hide on Shade being distracted by Unstoppable MVP. Slinky King trying to get there in time to save his jungler, but he is late. All he's holding in his hands are the remains of Hide on Shade. And Red Lotus, sure, Elixir, you may have picked up that dragon for your team, but Anime Avengers are ending the game. Call of the Forge God gonna be summoned, buying the time that Broken Stoner and Cyndaquil need to finally finish off this Nexus. Right into the horizon goes Elixir. Cosmic Radiance still available for Terrakido, and he is arriving on the map. This is definitely gonna be the end of the game. A nice searing charge for a knock-up. Anime Avengers bring home the dub versus Red Lotus 2-0.
Yeah, in the end, the Vygar not going the Glacial build for some reason ended up working out okay for Anime Avengers. Probably wouldn't recommend doing that every game, but you know, when you're able to burst him down that hard as he was at the end of that fight and get that fed, it probably doesn't really matter anyway. Able to hit Max with the W, which goes through the Braum shield. That was definitely played almost perfectly by the Vygar, and then just able to ulti around the Braum shield. I would say some of the issues here. Also, Braum didn't really use too much of his Braum shield to block the Ornn ulti. So you're actually able to just block the initial charge of the Ornn ultimate when it goes towards Ornn, not when he headbutts it at you. But if you put the Braum shield the other way, he would have been able to block some of that damage. I didn't get a chance to mention that later in the game, but a couple times it may have been able to sway a fight into Red Lotus' side. But you know, just a really clean game. Vygar was huge for this game, really able to just basically mitigate the fact that they had a Braum, you know, W goes through the Braum shield, you know, doesn't get blocked by that. So that definitely was a huge point for Anime Avengers side, and they're able to end the game before the DPS discrepancy on their side really mattered.
Yeah, at the end of the first game, I said I felt like Red Lotus weren't necessarily the worst team, but they've got to come back swinging. They got to go back to the drawing board and figure out what went wrong. Anime Avengers at this point, I don't think they had a better team comp. I still don't, and I don't think they even necessarily played to their strengths all that well. Again, I'm tilted by the no glacial augment items on
I am too, a
Cyndaquil,
little bit.
but at the end of the day, you gotta give it to them. That was a strong win. They did a pretty good job of controlling team fights and controlling the map. And even though they did get behind a little bit early on, they played later game team fights very, very well for the most part and didn't really give Red Lotus chances back into the game. And I thought the macro from Anime Avengers was just in general better across both games than Red Lotus's macro. So you got to give it to them. They definitely showed why they are one of the undefeated teams in this group.
Yeah, it doesn't really show up on the scoreboard here, but Zed really coming in clutch at the end of that game.
Absolutely.
Able to stop a lot of the backs near the end of that game to let Cyndaquil basically end the game by himself with Ornn also TPing with him. And just the split pushing, knowing that, well, if I'm in a team fight, is a Zed in a 5v5 really going to change much than without a Zed in a 5v4? Probably not too much, especially with the amount of peel that they were able to provide with the Syndra E and the Braum shield and the Zai ulti. He really doesn't bring much to a team fight, so definitely just deciding, I'm just going to stay in the side lane, push out side waves. You guys can 5v4. It ended up working out once pretty well for Anime Avengers. The other time it didn't work out so well, but just being able to get those towers was definitely very helpful.
And I want to reach out to you guys in the chat quickly before we end up ending the stream here. We did read the chat, and I want to extend my appreciation to you guys. There have been some kind words being said. I know I felt a little bit burned out coming into tonight, and I felt like I didn't have that great of a stream. And I know that Timmy is newer, so I definitely appreciate all the kind words. I'm sure he appreciates the kind words as well. It's
yes,
great to know that we're doing at least a little bit of a good job here. So.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Just trying to try this out. A little new at this, but I really appreciate the kind words.
Yeah. All right. I think with that, we're probably gonna wrap it up tonight. I want to thank the teams that played, especially as well. You guys, it was a pretty good series, especially that second game. The second game was a lot closer than the first game.
Yeah, it's a lot better.
It did. Yeah, it did feel like Red Lotus switched up their style quite a bit and definitely played better. In the first game, it sort of felt like Anime Avengers outclassed Red Lotus almost across the board. And in the second game, Red Lotus, you guys were hitting back. You guys were finding some fights. You were playing around your carries relatively well. There were definitely some good things happening. I was pretty impressed in general with how Max played the mid lane. I was pretty impressed in general with Elixia and Slinky as well. So keep it up, guys. Don't be too disheartened by this. Come back swinging next time. But congratulations to Anime Avengers as well, because you guys had a fantastic series. Of course, you won the game. Can't take none of that away from you, but god dang it, Cyndaquil, why take Glacial Augment if you're not going to build GL Pure Twin Shadows? I don't understand. At least take something else. Take Unsealed Spellbook or, I don't know, Electrocute or something.
Yeah.
Like, you took Glacial Augment and then didn't build any of the OP Glacial Augment stuff. Anyway.
But the auto slows.
The autos do still slow, that's true. But the Vigar autos are pretty if you ask me. They're pretty But thanks to everyone. Thank you all so much for coming out, for watching, for chatting, all that stuff. Thanks to the players. Thank you to you, Timmy, for casting with me. It's been a blast. With that, I think we're going to wrap it up, and I will just finish it off by saying have a fantastic night, and I will see you guys on the next stream.